Hey guys, this is Roxim087. I just want to go through a couple of new TNT products. This is just an overview video, not a super in-depth review or anything like that. Although I will be going over a future video of these products. So right off the bat, we have the new TNT high flow pistol kit, which is I don't know why they call it a pistol kit, but it's basically a high flow nozzle for your GHK AK. Supposedly, this nozzle is supposed to give you more power than the high power nozzle that Simoon sells. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Simoon is a large GHK distributor of replacement parts for your GHK, and they actually sell the 1 joule nozzle as well as the high flow nozzle. And this nozzle from TNT is basically higher power than both of those nozzles, supposedly. I have not tested this, but I will test it soon. Right off the bat, I can tell you though, it has the same wings, or the wing reinforcements that I come to expect from the high flow nozzle. And the plastic appears to be the same, to be honest. I'm going to take a look at this later on, but I'll cover this another day. And this kit was 270 Hong Kong dollars, which basically means that this is slightly under 40 US dollars. Quite expensive for a nozzle. And of course, for the main part of this video, which you guys are probably all interested, is the TNT hop-up chamber, which comes all assembled. Everything is completely assembled when you first take it out of the box. There's no instruction booklets, there's nothing that tells you how to assemble it or anything like that. It all comes assembled. So this kit I got for my GHK AK105. This is the 320mm kit, and this retails for 775 Hong Kong dollars. I bought this all from UN Company, by the way. And they have pretty good service. This is significantly improved compared to many years ago. And this 320mm barrel, basically, it's around 100. It's actually exactly 100 US dollars, basically. There's also the 400mm length, which is around 800 Hong Kong dollars. That one's around 110 US dollars. Not significantly more expensive, just slightly. They also make a 440mm barrel. That might be for an RPK, maybe. I'm not entirely sure what that's made for, to tell the truth, but they do sell a 440. They also sell another version that's 240mm, which I'm not entirely sure what that's supposed to go in, because an AK-74U, the maximum length barrel that you can use with it still being inside the outer barrel is 208mm. So I'm actually not entirely sure why they made one that's 240. I don't know. Whatever they sell, right? They also they may have other lengths that I forgot to mention, but those are the only 4 lengths that I'm aware of for now. Anyways, enough of that. Let's go over the hop-up kit now. So as I mentioned earlier, it all comes assembled. Now, what's so special about this kit is that supposedly the dial is smoother, and the range and all that stuff is supposed to be improved due to the way that this is a TNT barrel. If you don't know what I'm talking about, and if you're new to TNT products, TNT has this rifling inside over here that goes up to this far. And this rifle, I'm not entirely sure what the rifling is supposed to do. It might be to stabilize the BB trajectory. I'm not entirely sure what the theory is or what the actual effect is, but supposedly it does something similar. I've actually seen a couple of TNT barrels in action on a Silverback SRS, and I'm going to be entirely honest with you, the performance is quite convincing. It's something that you sort of have to see to believe it, to tell the truth, and that's the only reason why I actually got this. I will also admit that 80% of the reason is due to the internet hype. It's because everyone's all hyped up about it, and I also got hyped up about it. But the real reason is also because I've seen some of their products in action, and I'm willing to try it. So that's the reason why. And this inner diameter is 6.03mm, and this is not a steel barrel. At least I don't think it is. It doesn't seem to stick to any magnets. I don't have a magnet handy, but it doesn't stick to any. I tried. And over here, at the back, it has the same AEG barrel cut, except that their AEG barrel cut has an extra space cut out at the front. I believe the reason why that is because of their proprietary hop-up rubber. This hop-up rubber that they produce is very special. It is super stiff, extremely rigid. It's sort of like a VSR rubber, but it's not a VSR rubber. It's like their own special design. It doesn't have the VSR thing that sticks on the side. Instead, it has the same sort of a feed design where it has a structure over here, and it's very rigid, and the nub over there is actually significantly longer than most nubs that I've seen. In fact, the nub is so long that I think they actually cut the barrel to accommodate their large nub size, and their nub inside their hop-up rubber is an M nub. You probably won't be able to see that on camera because my camera is not so good at picking up light, but it is using an M nub, which basically looks like the bottom side of an M. It's very, very stable. The first thing I noticed is that when I took it out of the package, whenever you turn the hop-up dial, the M nub is extremely uniform and extremely stable. That was the one thing that's first surprised me when I turned this up. Very, very interesting. And what's also interesting is that traditionally, the GHK hop-up tensioner doesn't look like that. It normally is sitting at a different position. Instead, they actually opted to put it like a cup, like a cylindrical, just like place it like that, and they just place it directly on top of here. And that's how it actually applies tension to your hop-up rubber. So I thought this idea was kind of interesting. It's because this basically means that you no longer have the problem of whenever you turn the dial on the original GHK hop-up tensioner, sometimes if you don't install that properly, it will try to escape from you during the installation. And sometimes whenever you install it, you have to sort of rely on your experience to actually install it correctly. In this case, it is significantly easier for you to install this hop-up nub, is because there's literally a cutout for it. Focus, focus. There we go. As you can see, it actually has a cutout that's perfectly sized for it. It's actually so perfectly sized that you actually have to use a pair of tweezers to position it in place. Because it sits in a certain specific area, and once you lock it in that area, it will always stay there. It won't fall out on its own. Right? I thought that was quite interesting. I really like that design. Another special design that they use is that normally a GHK uses something like this. Normally GHK uses like a small little bracket to help hold on to the inner barrel, but instead TNT actually uses two grub screws on both the left and right side to secure the inner barrel. So basically it's very, very easy to secure it. And other advantageous thing is that whenever you install this, sometimes if that clip ever hangs a little bit, it becomes a little bit difficult to install into the GHK. Any GHK users that are watching this video now, you know what I'm talking about. It's basically whenever that clip comes off of place, and then it's hard for you to install your hop-up chamber and all that and tuck it into your barrel. So basically this is now a direct slip-on. It's much simpler because everything is much more uniform, right? And they use an O-ring over here to butt up against the outer barrel, I suppose. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of this O-ring is yet. I think it's just for the so that it can actually press right up against the outer barrel, possibly. I'm not entirely sure. And yeah, and they also have this, you see this ring over here? I think this is some sort of ring to help you keep the hop-up rubber structure rigid over here so that it will feed BBs properly, which is one of those key things that I'm going to check when I test this in the long term, which I'm going to post in another video, is that I'm going to test how the feeding is going to work on here. Very, very curious. So that's all I have to say about now for the chamber. Now for the dial. The dial is actually differently designed compared to the original dial. Where did I put it? Okay, so the original dial, imagine if this was the original dial. The reason why I want to say this is because it's much easier for us to see since it's shiny. So the original dial, you see that top area over there? Normally is much lower. Can you see the difference? The original dial is much lower, so right off the bat, whenever you install this dial, it's significantly easier to install this dial, so that's the first good point. Second good point is that you have slightly more variation of adjustments whenever you use the TNT dial. It's because the TNT dial starts very, very high, so you can slowly adjust it downwards so you have slightly more adjustments, and it's slightly more fine-tuned. You don't have to turn it very, very high, like all the way down where it starts applying too much tension and becomes difficult to move this. This, you'll have a little bit more movement. I think that might partially be the reason why this is slightly easier to turn. But I'm going to be entirely honest with you. I attribute the turning of this to just the way you install it and just the way your outer barrel was installed. Normally what I do is that when I reinstall all my AK barrels properly, normally this dial tends to work okay. It's still a little stiff, but frankly, this dial being stiff has never been a super big complaint for me. It's more of an inconvenience. It's not really a problem, to be entirely honest with you. But it's nice to know that this is smoother, right? I still appreciate the fact that this is smoother. Anyways, that's pretty much it for the dial and all that stuff. Now I'm going to be installing on my GHK AK. So first of all, I want to clarify a couple of things. The reason why I disassembled my GHK AK-105 to this point is because I want to straighten out my sight block as well as my front sight post. I do not wish to take apart this hop-up chamber. Since it became pre-assembled and since the nub is perfectly aligned, I want to assemble this into the gun without disassembling this. Normally, the fast way for you to install new inner barrels and hop-up chambers into your AK is that normally you slip the inner barrel inside from the front of your outer barrel. That's the fast way. Feel free to do it that way. I'm just letting you know that I'm going to be doing it the slow way, is because I want to line up a couple of things while I'm at it. And I will show you what the stock FPS of the gun is like with the stock barrel and stock hop-up chamber and stock rubber, and then I will show you what the performance is like with this. And again, I'll do a future video showing you guys the range of this, because in Hong Kong it's very inconvenient for me to find a 50-meter range unless I go very, very far. Okay? That's just the Hong Kong property problems. Okay, don't complain. Anyways, I'm just gonna start assembling, and I'm gonna tell you guys a couple of things as I assemble. So I want to quickly talk about something which I sort of expected. So when it comes to GHKs, I've always found it strange that whenever you install inner barrels into the outer barrel, there's always a bit of play between the inner barrel and the outer barrel. So right off the bat, before I installed it, I added a couple of stabilizers. And what stabilizers basically mean is that normally they're made of O-rings, Teflon tape, or masking tape. I like to use masking tape, because masking tape, when you add a layer of it, you can turn the aluminum barrel onto the inner barrel, because this masking tape is so thin that it's very easy for you to manipulate. But right off the bat, the inner barrel is now very difficult to take off the aluminum barrel after I added this masking tape. So that's the downside of it. Whenever you use the traditional method that Samoon teaches you to take out the inner barrel, it becomes a lot more difficult to take out. So that's just my warning to you if you decide to use my method. I only added one stabilizer at the front, is because I predicted that's all I need. And I'm just going to install my my outer barrel. Now, while I'm installing my outer barrel, I'm actually going to make sure that I torque it in the correct position. And the reason why that is because if you're new to GHKs, by the way, it is important that you torque the outer barrel correctly in relationship to the hop-up chamber. If you torque it in too tight, the hop-up adjustment becomes too stiff. If you torque it too loose, your hop-up tensioner will not work, because this dial can only go up to this point, right? So if this tensioner area is not is too deep into the gun, the tensioner won't work properly. That's the reason why it's important for you to torque it in to the correct position. Now, as to how much to torque it in, it honestly depends on your experience. Some people do it by trial and error. I personally do it just because I personally know how to do it just because, I don't know, yeah, from experience. But I originally learned it from trial and error, because I originally didn't understand why torquing it tight would make problems, and torquing it loose what problems it would create. So right off the bat, I'm going to start lining this up a little bit more carefully now. I'm getting up to the point where, as I turn the outer barrel, the chamber is beginning to move. So I'm going to make sure that everything's fine. Okay, so it appears that this is the area I want to set it in. So afterwards, I'm just going to tighten this barrel nut by a little bit. The reason why I'm not tightening it all the way is because I want to test this. Normally what I do is that up to this point, a simoon teaches you to start assembling some other stuff. I like to start assembling the hop-up chamber so I can test whether or not I can turn the dial. Okay, so I just seated in the chamber and all that stuff, and yes, I do notice that it's significantly easier to turn. I'll give it credit for that, so it appears to be working perfectly fine. Now, because I installed everything already, I might as well leave it here. You may have your own way of assembling your GHK, but since I need to align my sight block and do all that stuff anyways, I might as well spend a little bit of time here. Normally what I do is that I put the sight block first. I don't line anything up because you still have to torque in this nut. I didn't torque it in yet, by the way, which I will have to do. Anyways, up to this point, it's just my own little, nitpicking, so I'm not going to show you that because it's very, very boring. You don't have to watch it. So I'm just going to go show you guys the testing, and then I'll tell you guys what my future plans are for this project. Wait guys, so we just got to the part where I'm mostly done with the aligning part, except that for this front sight I chose not to align yet because, check this out. So this is the 320mm barrel. It's pretty much a spot-on fit. So it just shields it just by enough. It sticks out by like pretty much nothing. A millimeter or less. So yeah, that's perfectly fine. So you know what? Now that I know that it actually fits that well, and now that I torqued in my barrel nut and all that stuff, so I'm just gonna start assembling stuff. This part of the video you don't have to watch, but I figured this part might be cool to show you guys because it just, like, I did not expect it to fit like this. So now I know an AK-105 uses a roughly around a 320mm barrel, and then it will just be perfectly flush. But I'm pretty sure for the AK-74U, when you buy the 240mm, I'm pretty sure that won't be flush, unless otherwise. I wonder if the position of the chamber and the length is different, which I don't think it should be. I don't know, anything just should be fine. .417, 403, 402. I just want to double check, can you guys actually see that on camera? Yes, you can. Okay guys, so that's pretty much it for the shooting test. I did notice that it increased my FPS by a little bit, by maybe about 10 or 15 FPS, not by much. Originally this was shooting around 375, 380 FPS. In the summer, this appears to be shooting harder. I saw some reviews online, and my FPS is a little bit higher for some reason. I'm not 100% sure why. I think it just has to do with the summer for now, because in Hong Kong, for some odd reason, the temperature has been really, really high here. It's been really hot. You could probably cook an egg on the road. Anyways, so yeah, the GHK is normally increased by like 0.1 or 0.2 FPS when we use it in the summer in Hong Kong. But this summer in 2016, I got some very high FPS jumps. I got like 0.3 FPS jumps, which, by the way, that can easily get me kicked off a field. So I am a little bit worried about that sometimes when I upgrade my GHKs, which makes it sort of hard to predict. So based on my testing here, since it maxed out around 400 FPS with the TNT upgrade, I would say if you're using it in Hong Kong in the summer, it might go to 410 or 420 FPS. That may be around 1.6, 1.7 joules. I highly doubt you'll pass 1.7 joules with a 320mm barrel on a GHK AK-105. If you use the 400mm barrels, you're obviously going to pass that, right? Because you upgrade an AKM, you can easily break 1.5 joules just like that. So if you're an AK-105, when you buy the TNT hop-up, just be careful of the FPS right off the bat. In Hong Kong, we have to be very careful about all the field limits and all that stuff, because that can easily get us kicked or get us banned and all that stuff, because it's a big thing over here. Anyways, enough about that. I'm going to be editing some outdoor footage for you guys. I have about 5 hours of footage to sift through with my fixed Sony camera. So I found out that my Sony camera was actually slightly broken, so that's the reason why I was filming weird. And now I finally fixed it. I just gave it into someone and then they helped me fix my lens. It was because my lens had some sort of flaring issue or something like that. Anyways, they just replaced my lens in like 2 seconds, and that seemed to fix everything. Anyways, I'll show you guys some footage real soon. I look forward to it. I will be doing some long-range tests, shooting it in the forest, just so that you guys can see all the BB drift and all that stuff. Even though there's a bit of wind on that day, it's a very realistic test to see how your BBs would theoretically fly. Oh, by the way, on the game, I'm using it only with my iron sights. The Assura Dynamics mount that I have here is for an optic that I do not have yet. I used to use an Aimpoint Pro here, but I want to use the Aimpoint Pro on my Marie MWS. So I'm looking to get another optic for this. For now, I'm using iron sights, is because since I took apart my AK, I straightened out my sight block and I straightened out my front post iron sight, and also they're both actually leveled to the receiver. So all my iron sight setup is very, very stable. In case if you're wondering why I'm playing outdoors with a scope mount with no scope, that's the reason why. When I post the game footage, you guys might find me a little bit weird. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. I also have a Facebook page that you can follow me on, in which there will be a link in the description box below. Peace, guys. Happy shooting, and thanks for watching.